A game that I very much enjoy, Humankind, recently released this limited time event for Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead festival in Mexico, of course, and basically this is what it looked like in-game. For those who either aren't familiar with Humankind and are like, what the heck's Humankind, or if you're just not quite sure about the event, you had to complete these challenges, there's my face, and I took to Twitter to share my thoughts on what I thought of the event as a whole and the kind of playstyles it brought forward, and it was pointed out to me that maybe there are some downsides too, like FOMO. So, in this video, I'm going to discuss limited time events, my thoughts on them, and some of the perspectives that I've gathered. But moreover, I want to unpack them a little bit and really dig deep. Are they good? Are they bad? What do we get from them and what do we lose by creating them, specifically focusing on that limited time factor? Because I think that most people don't really have necessarily many issues with events. It's the limited time, dare I say, FOMO factor that people are most concerned about. And indeed, I ran a poll on my channel, which I love to do. 56% of you 1,300 people said you liked it. 44% did not. And I think that goes to show just how strikingly potentially polarizing this is. So sit back, relax, please do listen through both arguments, and then I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. First and foremost, I'm going to start with the good, the 56% of people who voted yes, and try and convey that perspective. I think that overall these events, whether they're limited time or not, actually provide us with four key things. Firstly, they are fun. Variety is the spice of life. They are fun, or at least designed to be fun. And they provide us with a little bit of difference in what could otherwise be a potentially stale experience. Not mine with Humankind, but certainly across gaming we've seen that, right? These events, as I may have mentioned in the past, are not specific to Humankind. We've seen them from Call of Duty to Fortnite to Pokemon and everything in between. Secondly, and sort of building on that a little bit, I think that these events really inspire a diversity of play. And it's not just that variety is the spice of life, it's that they inspire us to try new playstyles, or experiment with elements of the game that we otherwise haven't. And to use Humankind's Dia de los Muertos event as an example, it required us to play as the Mexicans and run 20 festivals, these fiestas if you will, that many players may not have done before. Are the festivals good in-game? Frankly, not really. Are the Mexicans good? Frankly, yeah. And did I enjoy both of those regardless of whether they were good or not? Yes, because it pushed me to try something different. And I think as players more broadly, when we engage with these events and they sort of require us to do certain things, so long as they're not too restrictive, it's nice to offer that diversity, and I think that probably we come out as slightly better, or at least more experienced players as a result of it, right? Maybe slightly more knowledgeable too. Who knows? Thirdly, I think that these events are wonderful because they reward the active player base. I'll touch, of course, on the counter to this, that fear of missing out effect, in the second half of this video, but it's nice to feel included, to have something to talk about with the community, to have a common interest, indeed a limited time one, and of course be rewarded for being an active part of that community and engaging in active community events. Of course, you could argue a flip side aside from the FOMO, that is that these events, while rewarding active players, have the potential, especially when monetization is involved, which it's not in this case, but it has been in many other areas of the gaming industry, where monetization becomes involved. Are you really rewarding active players, or are you first sort of forcing them to open the purse strings? I don't know. I'll park that for a minute and move on to the fourth positive that I see in these limited time events, and that is really specific to this event in Humankind, but also broader events in similar games. I wouldn't strictly rule out all sectors of gaming here when I say that it showcases cool cultures and cool events, and I think that Humankind's Dia de los Muertos in particular does a great job at that. This is an event that, particularly if you're living in, say, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, dare I say even the United States of America and Canada, an event that you may not have had a lot to do with, and it's wonderful to have it showcased. And actually, of all four of these positives, and I know that this one is quite specific to this event in Humankind, but of all four positives, this is the one that I like the most. Really, and it's the one that I'm going to stand my ground on the most too. A shout out to Humankind and Amplitude for showcasing a culture and an event that is fantastic and interesting and different and exciting and diverse. Thank you for bringing the limelight to that and not just putting pumpkins on the top of people's heads like most, if not all, other industries within gaming, programmers, developers, whatever, would choose to do. Surely pumpkins get more clicks, but Dia de los Muertos is, in my opinion at least, much more unique, engaging, and definitely within the flavour of Humankind. Let's move on to the other argument, that FOMO, and others that go alongside it. The core and the crux of it, from what I've heard, is really based around that limited time factor of the limited time events. I don't want to play your game over the next 2 weeks. Heck, I don't want to play your game over the next 4 weeks. But I have a fear of missing out nonetheless. It's one that I understand, because having rewards put behind specific time-limited barriers, and maybe not when they're just cosmetic, but when those rewards are hidden behind those barriers, it can lead to a fear of missing out, right? Oh, what if I'm away for 2 weeks? What if I can't afford to pay the internet bill for 2 weeks? What if I'm stuck working my ass off over the next 2 weeks and I can't play and get those rewards? And I get you and I feel that and it sucks. But of course the flip side is, if we leave them open to everybody forever, are they really Dia de los Muertos rewards? Are they really Halloween awards or Christmas awards or whatever event you want to choose? If we leave them open indefinitely, does it take away from the flavour of the event and the celebration that comes with it? I think yes. Even though I have been on the other side, on that FOMO side, on missing out on things in games that I loved because I didn't have the time to play them, I like the sort of event exclusivity as well. Particularly, I should add, in this case, where we're dealing with Humankind, and these events, rewards are purely cosmetic. I mean, and to be fair, they're really mostly just borders and player icons. They're nothing super substantial. Of course, the slippery slope argument could be brought in here too, but I don't think that's one that should be entertained. Secondly, and maybe more importantly, there's an issue around... Actually, it's really a multifaceted thing. It's cultural appropriation, potentially. Or it's not doing an event justice. Or it's misrepresenting an event, or leaving parts out that the people who enjoy the event really love. This is not a perspective that I've personally held, but I absolutely get it, and I absolutely understand it. Let's maybe bring it out a little bit more abstract. Let's say you're playing a game of Civilization, a historical strategy game, and your country or culture is in the game, but you feel like they've really just missed something. Like, this is just not how my nation should be represented. This is not what I think of my culture. It's those kind of things that can not only maybe upset people on the fringes, but more importantly, leave you feeling disappointed as a consumer, I think. Like, man, they put New Zealand in the game, wicked, but man, they didn't do it justice. That kind of thing. And that same mantra, that same logic, I think, can be applied to events as well. You have to really dance a fine dance. You have to do it justice. You have to represent it well historically and culturally, but you also have to make it fun. It's a balancing act that requires some thought, and one that I wouldn't necessarily like to be in charge of balancing myself. I should add, by the way, these criticisms I don't think reflect Humankind's Dia de los Muertos event. I think it's been handled fairly well, but I'm perhaps not the best suited to make that opinion. This concludes my video. I'd love to hear your thoughts below on Humankind, and more broadly on limited time events in gaming. All I can say is, I'm glad we didn't end up with pumpkins on our head.